All right, so I'm going to quickly go through the rules, kind of basic rules for balancing chemical reactions. We already know that with balancing chemical reactions, according to the law of conservation of mass, you have to have the same number of atoms on the left side, the reactant side, as you do on the product side, the right side. So I just go through basically step by step which ones you should do first. So typically for rule number one, I just balance metals first. If there aren't any metals, I'll skip that and go to rule number two. So one of the things I include with balancing metals is I also include the ammonium ion, because the ammonium ion is a cation and tends to have a positive charge, just like metals do in ionic compounds. The next rule, rule number two, is I balance nonmetals. So if there's any nonmetals like chlorine, I balance them on both sides. Now, what I will include with nonmetals is if I have polyatomic ions on both sides and they're polyatomic anions. So if I see, for example, a sulfate on both sides, I don't split it up into separate sulfurs and oxygens. I just balance the sulfates on both sides. Same thing if I had, for example, a carbonate. If there's a carbonate on both sides, I'd leave it and I balance the entire species on both sides. So again, any polyatomic anions, if they're on both sides, I don't split them up. I leave them as a group and I balance that group. Thirdly, I save hydrogen and oxygen for last. Now, in a lot of reactions, you're going to see that you might have both of these. For example, a combustion reaction. If you have both hydrogen and oxygen, what I always tell students to do is save the diatomic for the very last. So if I have, for example, in combustion, oxygen is one of the reactants, always, because you need oxygen to support combustion, I would save oxygen for the very last. So I would save oxygen and do hydrogen first, then the oxygen. And obviously the fourth step is I'm always going to go back and check my work, because once I start putting coefficients in front of these balance equations, I may have to go back and rebalance a metal. So again, this is just a quick little guide. I hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment area. And again, I thank you all for listening.